So happy Mother's Day, and it's just absolutely wonderful to be here with you. Today I feel very welcomed, very honored, and I forgot her name. I've so many names, but one of your wonderful welcoming members came up to me and said, I want you to know that this community is filled with loving, caring, welcoming people, that I do not need to be nervous. No matter what I did, you would welcome and honor me and love me, right? So, thank you. Thank you in advance. But you know what that said to me is that this room is filled with mothers, right? And I know you use the word mothering to distinguish between the woman who gave birth to you and other people who step into the role. But let's face it, in that moment where I stand in the role of mother for someone, or when you stand in that role for me in this moment, it's more than mothering. It is being mother in that moment. And that's what we're honoring today. We're honoring our birth mothers. We're honoring the mothers that we hoped for and never had. We're honoring the mothers that we did have and maybe are no longer with us. And I'm welcoming everyone to honor the people who have stepped up to more than just mothering, but being mother in your life, whether it was for an hour, a year, 10 years, or a lifetime. I'm an only child, the daughter of refugees, and my mother came out of that refugee experience with chronic PTSD, along with chronic physical illnesses. She was an amazing person, but when I was growing up, much of the time she was behind closed doors, in the dark, medicated, recovering from the physical pain, essentially, that she was dealing with. And that was a while ago, and what the medical community would do for chronic, severe physical pain is what was the only logical thing to do was that's my attitude coming through, administer strong pain medications. Week after week, month after month, year after year. So not only did my mother deal with PTSD and chronic pain, but opioid addiction, okay? When she had episodes of being herself, she was amazing. But had that been my only mother experience, it would have been really tough. Meanwhile, I had a father who was probably the best mother in the whole world. Do you get what I mean? He did more than mothering. He was my mother on those mornings when he was cooking me breakfast, singing to me, driving me to school, right? He was my mother. And I'm not in any way deprecating my biological mother. You know, she did what she could, and when she could, she did it well. So I honor the mother that my biological mother was, and I honor the mother that my father was. And then later in life, I ended up in a 12-step program like many other people have, and it was my lifeline. And there was a woman named Helen who was my sponsor, and one of the best mothers I ever had, right? She was able to look at me at a time when I felt broken, when I felt damaged, when I felt helpless, in pain, confused, and she would look at me and she would smile from the bottom of her heart, and in her eyes, I could see that she saw someone who was good. No qualifications, just that I was good. She was an amazing mother to me. An absolute, and I could go on. I've had other mothers like that. I had a mother when I moved to Florida as a new psychologist. And she was, I don't know, maybe 15 years, 20 years older than me. And we'd go walking together. We'd take walks several times a week. And she would lecture me on what to do and what not to do. She was a therapist moving into retirement, so she gave me very good direction, but I felt safe with her. I was in a new state, a new city, a new profession, and this woman made me feel safe in where I was and what I was doing and what I was endeavoring. Another mother that I had. In my own life, when I was 16 years old, I flew for the first time from Ohio, where I grew up, to New York for a wedding. Close family friend, my mother's best friend, had made her transition, and I was at the funeral, and they had a little boy who was about 6 at the time. And on the way to the funeral, and this little boy's father was an alcoholic, probably hitting his bottom. And I guess he must have been terrified of having to raise this child on his own now. And he also wasn't very sober when we were heading toward the funeral. And I'm 16, right? A very sheltered 16. Today's 16-year-olds would have run circles around me. But this father was fumbling for his wallet, and he pulled it out. We were in a taxi. He was on the far right. Siggy, the little boy, was next to me, and then there I was. And his father pulled out his wallet, and out of his wallet gave me a $5 bill. He said, "I'll give you this if you keep him." Meaning, this was not a sober moment, okay? It had all of the lack of logic and wholeness that comes with severe addiction. And ultimately, he recovered, and the story ended wonderfully. But in that moment, that was before cards and credit cards and debit cards, and it was my first time kind of away from home on my own. I was supposed to travel with my mother, but she couldn't last minute. So they gave me a lot of cash in case of emergencies. And I took the cash and I bought Siggy a ticket to come home with me. Now, I described the situation. My mother was not always able to be a mother. So there I was at 16, a mother. I checked homework. I made sure laundry was done, teeth were brushed, parent conferences. I was doing more than mothering. I was the mother. And I'm sure that each and every one of you has stories about that. It's actually the way of our world. I mean, there are awful things that happen. But when we go deep enough deep into our hearts, when we look closely enough, we see this everywhere. I had a German Shepherd who raised a kitten because the kitten's mother was killed. And this little kitten, who ended up being super tiny because she lost her mother too young, grew up thinking she was a German Shepherd. She went for walks, she went for rides. We lived right by the beach. She went swimming with us. She rode the surf. She did everything the German Shepherd did. And there's many, many stories about this. So what is a mother, right? It's so much more than the woman who gave birth to us. One of my favorite definitions of what is a mother came from an article so long ago, I don't even remember the source, but children were asked, what is a mother? And one of the boys said, a mother is the only one who knows where the Scotch tape is. So, a mother, essentially, the archetype, the idea, the experience that we have of mother is love. And it's that love that I described that I got from Helen, that no matter how broken I might have seemed to be, the mother in my life, whether it was my father, my biological mother, Helen, or others, in that moment could look at me and see that I was good, that I was whole, that I was complete. Maybe there were things that needed some education or information, but at the essence, the love of a mother is that love of total welcoming and acceptance. I know when my son was born, that first, and I need to preface, I was never the type of young woman that longed to have kids. I mean, but there I was having my son, I was welcoming him, but the first moment I looked in his eyes, I knew with every cell of my being that he was perfect. I mean, I didn't know him. This is the first moment we met, right? How did I know so deeply that he was perfect? So that's what is at the very heart of mothering. You know, in unity, we say, I behold the Christ in you. That's a pretty dry phrase for what the truth of that is. That means I look at you. Not only do I see your physical being, that no matter what you've done, no matter what you've experienced, I see in you the divine. I see that which we have called God. I see infinite possibilities. I see infinite realities. I see you and know you beyond that which my physical eyes can see. When we honor the mother, we are honoring that ability to be with each other and to be with ourselves, right? We'll talk a little bit more about being a mother to ourselves. The daily word, Emily Cady came first. Emily Cady, does everyone know who Emily Cady is? Okay, she is the first author of Unity books, all right? And she wrote, God is love. We cannot see love except love as it is clothed with a form. All the love in the universe is God. A mother's love, so infinitely tender, so unfailing, is God's love, only manifested in greater degree by mother. So that which we call the mother in our lives in this moment is that which clothes or embodies or gives form to divine love. The Daily Word in 2014. A mother's love is strong, it protects, it comforts, nurtures, and forgives. You know, without that kind of love, when a child is born without that kind of love, a condition often follows, a medical condition that was named failure to thrive. Have you all heard of that? Yeah. When a baby is not loved, that baby has a higher risk of serious illness and death. So it's not, you know how in politics these days, and I've always wondered the weirdness of the phrase, soft power. Okay, soft power, you know, it's the power that a country has when it's not using weapons, that it's using other tactics. And it's almost colored as something seedy or sneaky or, give me a break, you know? Soft power is the most powerful power that is, because it is based in connection, in love, in building trust, in acknowledging each other. So mother love is soft power, and it is the most powerful power. We have this notion that if we're strict and strong and beat up on kids or people, that they will do their best, right? Well, it was a way of thinking for a while. But no, it's this love that mother brings in the many forms that mother shows up. The love that comes down to us from our ancestors, that helps us know who we are. I know that you honor that here at Unity in Marin. I heard that in the service. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that the love and compassion of our mothers and our spiritual ancestors are available to us in every moment. So a child who is loved, those of us who find mothers to support us through our lives, give us that sense of who we are, and that remains available to us in each and every moment. Because I was promised that each and every one of you would be loving and accepting and welcoming, it gives me strength to be here, to speak to you and to open my heart, right? So, this thing of having that kind of love labeled, not outwardly, but I think in our culture we think of it as a soft power, right? It's kind of background stuff, but it's not. One of my favorite images of the divine feminine, this is a picture of a statue of Kuan Yin that was gifted to me. It sits on my bookshelf. And Kuan Yin, there's many, many things you can read about the meaning of this goddess. But one of the favorite things that I read is that she takes and she transforms all of the stuff, all of that stuff that helps us, that leads us to feel broken at times, all of the stuff that at times seems so overwhelming. I think of Kuan Yin in this era of our country where There are things that are happening so fast that I feel overwhelmed, and then I remember that there is that power and that love within me that can transform anything. Oftentimes, Kuan Yin is pictured standing on a dragon, and I know there's many interpretations of dragon, but one of them is transformation. And I like the image that Kuan Yin can stand on all the dragons that threaten me and transform them all and be my source of strength through it all. Maya Angelou wrote that to describe my mother would be to write about a hurricane in its perfect power. So anytime you start thinking of this mother's love as soft and gooey, remember that it's the power of a hurricane. The power of Kuan Yin to transform, to make all things new, to make all things right. How much time do I have? Someone help me out. Someone give me minutes to work with, please. About 4. Okay. I might go a little bit, but I want to share one more story. I was a high school teacher in the U.S. Virgin Islands for 13 years. And I taught at a small private high school, traditional curriculum, but the founder headmistress set up the school to serve the kids, the teenagers on the island who had been expelled from every other school. I mean, where do you go when you live on an island and you can't go to the neighboring town, right? So she set up the school, but it was open to anybody. And there were some very rich people on the island and some not so financially rich people on the island. And she set it up that the people who could afford it paid through their noses to have their kids there. And then she gave out scholarships. About half the school was scholarship. And so we had a wide range of amazingly wonderful kids who all knew how to get into horrible trouble. And everyone had given up on them. And when I was hired, she said to me, I'm hiring you to teach science and algebra. Teach them biology, help them learn, but the moment you try to fix any of them, you're fired. It's not your job to change them. It's not your job to make them better. It's your job to teach biology and algebra. I want you to look at each and every one of them and really see that they are good. And the moment you're tempted to fix them, stop it. It was a small school. There are usually about 50 students. And there were 3 rules. One was, you had to succeed academically to be invited back. But once you were there were 3 rules, 2 rules beyond that first one. The first was if you came to school barefoot and you cut your feet, you were not allowed to complain. So that meant if the surf was up and we could see the surf from where we were, if the kids wanted to leave class and go surfing, that's fine. But if they came back and they didn't know how to do their geometry homework, they weren't allowed to complain, and it wasn't our problem. And we could love them and encourage them and say, you'll figure it out, but nobody sat down with them to show them how to do this problem now, okay? Nobody was ever criticized for getting up and leaving and going surfing. You weren't a bad person for doing it. The other rule was teachers were not allowed to discipline or correct kids in class. So if Johnny was getting up, acting out, and Mary couldn't learn, I, as the teacher, couldn't say anything. But Mary could stand up and say, Johnny, sit down. I can't hear. You're bothering me. And it took a month or two into the school year, but they would do that. These kids wanted to come back, and they went from failing and being hopeless to every single student that went to the high school went on to college. We had kids getting scholarships to Harvard and succeeding. And the technique was to do what unity teaches, to see the Christ. The technique was to be truly the mother, the welcoming mother who could see the truth of who they were, who could see that they were perfect. Despite all appearances, and there were many appearances. So this is the mother that we honor today. This is the mother that loves, nurtures, nourishes, transforms, truly transforms, and sustains all of creation. This is the mother that each of us can be to each other, and most of all, what each of us can be to ourselves. Don't settle for mothering. Step up and be the mother to all of those around you and to that very perfect person who lives as you in this moment. And so it is. So now let us take this beautiful truth into our time of meditation. So I invite you to sit comfortably. If there's any tension, just allow it to melt, and for a little while let it slip away. If it is helpful, take a nice deep breath or two. And then allow your breath to find its own easy and natural rhythm. Turning your attention to your breath. The very breath of life, the breath of God that breathes you in this very moment. And you may notice how with each breath you go deeper within. That you go deeper into your heart space. And how in this moment your heart begins to open. And how in this moment the infinite love of divine of the divine, of Divine Mother. How that infinite love flows into your heart. How the love of Divine Mother fills your heart to overflowing. And then know that this is the love that moves through you and allows you to be mother to all the people and the creatures that you meet in this amazing life that we live. And so for a little while, in the silence, allow yourself to be in that heart space, in that infinite love of the Divine Mother. And in the silence, feel that love expressing as you. And so now, in this moment, we honor the Mother. We honor Divine Mother that upholds, transforms, and nurtures us. We honor the Mother within us. And we honor the many times Mother has stepped into our lives and nourished each of us. And for all of this now we are grateful and we say thank you. And so it is.